Warning: the Mended Futures podcast contains stories told by guests that may be sensitive to some people. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. The opinions expressed by guests do not reflect the views of the hosts and/or producers of this podcast.
Allison, guess what tomorrow is?
Friday.
Yes, but also it's Valentine's Day.
Oh, we're in the season of love.
In the season of love. Yes, so today, to keep in the theme of Valentine's Day, we had on Adam Holcomb, who is our marriage and family specialist. I don't know the exact title.
Counselor?
Yeah. Yeah. So he started the marriage and family program of Five18 Counseling, and he's just a great friend. He's a wonderful man, so easy to listen to. Allison has gotten to work with him in multiple capacities, so
We've collaborated in the community with young people. So I hope that you enjoy listening to Adam's story, but you also think about, do you fit into the space? Do
Mhm.
you need services that Adam describes? Or would you almost be an ambassador to talk to your network or your village about the importance of healthy relationships?
And also, there is a point in the episode where Adam says Thanksgiving instead of Valentine's Day, and it's definitely not because we're filming this beforehand.
Definitely not.
No, we hope you enjoy. Allison, I have a fun fact for you.
Oh, please tell.
Did you know that our guest today was actually the person who trained me when I first was hired here?
Your supervisor is here.
He's here, the big boss.
So instead of like a 90-day evaluation, we're going to do how many years ago was that?
Oh,
Almost 3.
yeah.
So we're going to do a 3-year out evaluation of Taylor's performance, job performance here.
Yeah. So Adam, this is Adam Holcomb. Say hi.
Hey.
So I initially was hired to help with social media and that kind of communications and marketing. And Adam was the one doing that at that time. So thank goodness he was a counselor, because he was very patient with me. There were a couple of remote meetings where I couldn't get my laptop to connect to stuff. And he's like, here's my number. Call me so we can talk through the phone while we try and figure this out.
Aw.
Yeah. So he was a good one.
And I think it's so interesting that even though you're the youngest person in the room, you don't prefer social media communications. So I
Yeah.
love that you love the written communication.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I'm entertained by social media, but it also freaks me out to try and do it. So, yeah. Hi.
Hey. Well, that's kind of the cool thing, is it's so neat that that I got to be there with you in the beginning, and then, here I am now, getting to do what I'm doing, and you're doing an awesome job. So
Appreciate it.
We'll get to that.
we will.
Yeah, we can get to the real.
We can get to the real
To the real,
evaluation.
the
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
So we know you, but for our guest, who are you and what brought you to 518 Family Services, or what brought you to the area?
Yeah. So I'm Adam Holcomb, and I run our marriage and relationship program here at 518 Family Services and 518 Counseling. And I started here almost 5 years ago. Yep. And it was right after COVID. And I'm a counselor by trade. So I'm an LPC. And I came here specifically wanting to do marriage and family work. So interesting thing is, though, is that that desire to work with couples goes back a little ways. I wasn't originally a counselor by trade. Actually, my trade was, oddly enough,
I forgot all the
Did you
time.
forget
I remember
this?
this, so that's why I started laughing
Yeah.
beforehand, because it's
Sorry.
very interesting.
Yeah. So originally, and this all actually kind of ties into how I met my wife. So I was not sure when I graduated from high school what I wanted to do. I went to a couple different universities and kind of bounced around and could not find anything I really wanted to do. The only thing I knew is every time I was in a dorm, people would just flock to me and tell me all their problems. So I knew I wanted to help people, but I really didn't know how or what to do about it. And I just had someone in my life that's like, you don't know what to do. Like, have you ever considered being a heating and air conditioning man? And I said, repairing heating and air conditioning equipment? He's like, yeah, you should go to where I went to technical school. And when you're done, I'll hire you. And I said, okay. So that's what I did. And so I spent, the next 11 years as a heating and air conditioning man.
In people's homes, and you probably had an inside look at some marriage and family situations.
Yeah, I did. Going inside people's homes was a really good insight into how people live. And through that, then what ended up happening was I ended up meeting my wife. And then after we got married, she also was really passionate about seeing couples healthy. And so from within our church and within the community where we lived in the Cleveland, Ohio area, that's where we started. And then that's when it started blossoming into, hey, maybe, she kept asking, are you sure you don't want to, maybe you should be a counselor? And so then that desire to work with couples increased. And so then eventually I came here to Lynchburg, went to Liberty, a couple degrees later, licensed counselor. And then that desire never went away. Never did. In fact, I can remember at times as a heating and air conditioning man, here in town, because we moved down here and I was still fixing equipment at businesses, and I was on top of roofs fixing those. And I remember I was taking classes and thinking, how am I going to be able to go from fixing machines to like working with people? Like, this seems so, so strange. But then later I realized that, this that desire to see things improve, to watch things change, whether that was working on something or whether that was being involved in someone's life, there was connection there. So that was really, I think, a big catalyst for me in my life.
I love that.
I think that's powerful for folks who are listening, because how many of us really know or knew what we wanted to do when we graduated from high school or even college, and that you can have skill sets as diverse as fixing heating and air equipment and helping people fix things in their marriages.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But I think you're right. It points that, people think that you have to always know what you should do, or people think you always should know, where you should go in your life. And people don't realize that openness to change, that openness to receive, to being open to learning, and I think that those are key ingredients. And sometimes maybe we overpressure, kids and then later adults, overpressure them and having to figure it out before maybe their heart has caught up to their heads, and I think that really kind of has then influenced how I kind of look at relationships and how people find happiness in their relationships.
Yeah, so we wanted to have you here sort of on behalf of Valentine's Day. Sort of thematically, you are essentially the relationship expert here at 518.
Oh my.
Can I tell them what the community leader in town calls you?
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a young man who works in the youth space who calls Adam the love doctor.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it is Valentine's Day, so I have to say that it's very fitting sometimes a little embarrassing, right?
Yes.
If he announces me to a group of kids and he's like, "Hey, here's the love doctor," and
They're all like,
that's right.
okay.
Oh, the love doctor. But no, it's pretty cool. I love what I get to do, whether that's working with couples or whether it's working in the community with young people.
So talk about that
Yeah.
because you announced yourself as the marriage and relationship guy,
Mhm.
but why would we have you interacting with teens in the community? So what is
Yeah.
the day in the life of Adam, or what does a week in the life of Adam look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of the cool things about what I get to do is I get opportunities to go into schools, to work with other nonprofits in the community, to partner, and then I get to have really, really great conversations to help youth understand that the choices they make now have more power over what's going to happen to them in their future. That they actually now can be making good choices that will lead to further happiness in adulthood. There's just numerous research about it from, Harvard has that lifetime longitudinal study that's still going on 80 years plus
Wow.
later. There's still have new cohorts, new groups of men and women, and they're following them. And they're still getting more research, but it all points back to the same thing that, healthy relationships are really important for you and that the choices you make now really impact your future. And so I try to go into the schools, I try to go into the community and just really try to encourage them that if they think that they don't have any choices, they're wrong. They have more power than they think. And that the habits and the way that they live their life now is actually building something that is going to carry them forward, as they become adults into the future. And so I really try to help instill that into youth so that what we're doing is we're going, if we talk about what we do as an organization, and I know here on the Mending Futures podcast, you guys have talked about the river, right? And so you've talked about what an unhealthy river looks like for people that maybe haven't come from too great of a start versus those that maybe received a lot of opportunity growing up. But that, when we're able to move upstream into that space where maybe people haven't had those opportunities and we get to provide just great, solid information that they really need to know that they hold more power, they hold more opportunity that they maybe right now don't believe they have. But when you come and bring them hope and tell them they do, and you give them options, then that unlocks their future in a way that it didn't before.
And you two have kind of started collaborating within the community. Is it with middle school students that you've been interacting with?
We started with some high schoolers. We've interacted with some middle schoolers. And then we recently talked to Torby with the children's show about how important it would be to expose learners of all ages about what does a healthy friendship look like? What does a healthy relationship look like? By middle school, you can talk about some relationships, and oftentimes high schoolers are dating. So we've had some interesting, eye-opening, powerful experiences in the community, and I love the collaborations and what some of that work is looking like.
Yeah. It's really exciting to think that as we have opportunities like that to share that information, and then, other shows that are being created are actually thinking about how they can get good, solid relationship basics into the hands of young people at an early age and helping them form those thoughts early, what that could mean for their futures. It's It's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from you, the research that you share and, just talking to Tori about Tor B, friendships are the basis for
Yeah.
relationships, or they should be.
Oh, yeah.
So it's never too early to talk to someone about what a healthy relationship looks like.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that this sort of desire to work with couples and families and sort of teach people about relationships has been with you for a while, even, before you met your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you think that desire came from? What was that little spark that led you to want to do this?
Yeah. I think that it probably goes back to my childhood, I would imagine, because I can, from earliest memories, think of my parents and the love they showed me, and how much they invested in me as a kid growing up. And then from that time, I think that I always really wanted to have good relationships. I wasn't one of those kids that had, like many relationships. I wasn't necessarily the social butterfly, but I always wanted a few really good quality relationships. And so I think that desire for connection was instilled in me at a young age. And then even when my wife Alexandra and I met and got married, I think that she also, saw how important meaningful relationships are. And so the two of us just kind of, have tried to live our lives about being more intentional. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
You mentioned the Vision 30 River, the tale of the two rivers, without us even prompting you to do that.
Gold star for
Right.
you.
Oh, thank you. I'll put it on there.
Where are you on the river?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I kind of find myself in 3 different places. The first place I find myself is as a licensed counselor. I see a lot of couples. I have, divorce attorneys that send me couples. I've received some from judges, social services. I receive couples from churches. I receive couples from almost anywhere and everywhere. And so I find myself right where the river is getting close to the waterfall in that video, where people are in crisis and they need someone to work with them directly on solving those most critical issues. I find myself there.
You're intervening.
I'm in the intervention space as a counselor. And then I also find myself then working upstream in about halfway up in doing more like training of couples. I do a lot of education. I do work with premarital couples. So I try to work with couples right before they get married, couples that are getting really serious in relationships. I want to try to work with them. And so it's preemptive at that stage. And then I go all the way upstream. And as you said that, we want good, healthy relationship education for all children. Then my last space is right up at the top, where it's very, very preventative, to the point where I would love to see that every child, as they're growing up, not only has a safe home, but that then their family and their parents' relationship is strong, but then they're learning good relationship skills as they're developing. And so then when they reach adulthood, that they have opportunities to have healthy relationships with people around them and with someone special.
Allison and I are excited to talk to you about our very first sponsor of the Mended Futures podcast, Mission House Coffee.
Mission House is locally owned, and their goal is to be a place that is known for delicious coffee, obviously, food and baked goods, and beloved care and acceptance they show to the people that they serve.
They also have their own coffee distributor called Mission House Roasters, where you can order their signature blends online and start brewing your own Mission House coffee right in your home.
One of my favorite things about Mission House and the name Mission is they have a pay it forward board where you can purchase something for someone else in the community and leave a nice note, an affirmation, or you can go to the board and pick something that applies to you. So it's a way to serve your neighbors and show love to people that we don't even know.
So come on down to Mission House Coffee and experience a place where you feel an abundant sense of love and acceptance from their staff and the community they serve. Have you you have 2 sons.
Mm-hmm.
Have you kind of started to implement the things that you teach other people into your parenting?
Yes. I've spent a lot of time working on my boys learning what healthy relationships look like and how to engage with people. It's funny because when they meet people, they're like, I'm kind of like, look them in the eye, make eye contact, shake their hand, tell them a little bit about yourself, and they're trying to learn to engage with people. But I've noticed some of the things that I've been teaching them as far as how to show care and concern for younger children. When younger children will come over to our house, our kids will take those little ones and play with them. And so they just start playing with them immediately, and they just kind of show them a lot of love and attention. And that's not a normal thing because most kids at 7 and 10 would rather be kicking a soccer ball or playing video games, right? They're not necessarily concerned about younger children. So just the fact that they engage with others, or they want to come and sit at the table and they want to talk to adults and ask questions. So I think that just teaching them what healthy relationships look like and trying to get them to engage with those that are younger and those that are older is really an important thing to learn and to model. And when we hope that that not only as I've had the benefit of a mended future, right? That I want my kids to have a good future as well. So
I have a question, and then we'll come back to the mended future. For folks listening, 518 Family Services is known for a long history of child welfare. So group homes under the Patrick Henry Family Services, moving more upstream to counseling, family care, kinship navigation, just moving farther up the river, not always being an intervention. How does marriage and family counseling fit into a child welfare organization?
I'm so glad you asked that, because at first you would say, what does that have to do with rescuing children, right? But the fact of the matter is that when we look at the home environment of those children, that when DSS has to act on behalf of a child, it means that something happened in the relationship between their parents or between their significant others. The people that are raising them are having relationship problems. And when you're able to enter into the space of bringing good, solid relationship education into an organization like this and say, we want children to have the folks that are their guardians, the people that are loving them and raising them, to have healthy relationships and then be able to model that for those children, then that's how we mend the future. That's how we really encourage those kids to have a future that their parents didn't have, and so that's really I think the catalyst or the reason why this organization has invested so much into the relationship space, because they understand that a whole, happy, healthy family looks like a family that understands healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you play into the reconciliation role in a very powerful way, because if you think about families in crisis, or even situations where children have been removed from the home, oftentimes if the relationship at home is mended or there is reconciliation, children can go back into the home. Do you see that on a regular basis, or do you work with families who have had children removed? Is that something that you see?
Yeah. So I'm in almost continual contact with caseworkers in the Department of Social Services, and they send me couples, um, on an almost regular basis. In fact, I've got just on my personal caseload right now, and this is not the other counselors in our organization, just myself. I've got, at least 3 or 4 that right now were sent to me by social services, where basically their children were removed. They didn't understand, um, you know, really how to have a healthy relationship, or even how a healthy relationship would work between them and their children versus themselves and their loved one, their significant other, and then to be able to work with them in counseling, and then see them, their relationship change, and then see how positively they respond, and then hear the good news from social services that they're doing well, visitations are going well, and then see them eventually then down the road, that child or those children get restored to those parents, and it's a healthy family again, and that I got to play a role in being with them through that, is just an amazingly rewarding journey to be able to walk on with other people.
And you've worked really hard for a pretty extended period of time to be able to do that. I mean, as long as I've known you, this has been your goal. So it's special to be able to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, it really is. It's an amazing blessing, because you're right. When I came here, we didn't have that. That didn't exist within our organization. And then to be able to come and work on that, and then to just see it grow, and then to see what is happening in the lives of families is pretty special.
I like to think about, I'm a former history teacher, so I like to think about the history and, the generational impact. You could be breaking cycles along with these families. You can be helping them to break cycles that have been going on for generations. And now this generation is healing, is mending. And the next generation may not have to know any of these traumas.
That's right.
That's neat.
It is.
That's worth it.
Oh, it's totally worth it. And I think that's why 518 sees the need, sees the call, the reason why we're focusing on the whole family, where we're focused on the parents' relationships and the relationships between the parents and the children, and really helping everyone to be able to interact with each other in a safe, a nurturing way. And I think it's also exciting to see then how, as we kind of answer that call and do the work, and there's so many other amazing organizations that partner with us and that we get to work with, that help us do this.
You're not doing it alone, and you shouldn't, and you couldn't.
No, I could never do it alone, and I never would want to, right? I want to do it with the community, because you can only go so far by yourself, but together you can go really far.
And you're equipping community members with some tools and the research. I love the one pagers and the table talks about healthy relationships. And you're equipping people who already have the meaningful relationships with young people or couples or families with the tool that they need to talk more about healthy relationships.
Yeah.
I think as someone who is unmarried, but as I've gotten older, and getting closer with my parents and having more kind of adult conversations with them, hearing about the people that they have in their lives, and just by extension, it's not uncommon to hear so and so, they're a great couple, they're wonderful people, but they're just struggling in their marriage right now. This
Yeah.
season is not a season that they anticipated, but there's a struggle. And obviously, no one expects a marriage to be perfect. And if you
Right.
do, you probably shouldn't be getting married. Um,
When you mentioned premarital counseling, I would like to make a request that that premarital counseling, we're kind of mandated to do that in a lot of settings. I wish we would normalize marriage counseling or continuing
Yeah.
some of those conversations as you've been married for a while, because it is so easy when you're young, you've slept through the night, and you're still looking forward to so many things. Like, where are the counseling sessions that someone says, all right, why don't you go in for your 2-year checkup when you have a baby and you haven't slept? Or now that you realize what it's like to manage your finances, or, my husband and I have been married for 16 years, and it's a commitment. And when people think you got to give it 50-50, heck no. You have to be giving it much more than 50%, and that it is so worth it. And what you're doing in your marriage, and hopefully your friendship with your spouse, is so important to your children. But I just wish that we did more than just premarital counseling, and there wasn't a stigma around marital counseling.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what I was
I
trying
think
to
you were
get at.
going
Yeah,
that
so
way.
thank you for reading my mind. But
Everyone struggles.
everyone struggles, and I love the checkup language, because it is a checkup. Like, you can go to a counseling session just to check in. Like, sometimes it's really helpful to just have a third party. No one has a side. Like, I don't know. It's just something that I've heard more and more often is, so and so are struggling, and they're doing the best they can to get through it. And I just have even more of an appreciation every time I hear that for, the resources that you provide. Yes, you do get the cases that are extreme, that are families in crisis, that, you know, referrals from divorce lawyers, but you also have people that are just trying to build deeper roots into their own relationship. So
can you tell the people listening, if this has struck a chord with anyone, like if you need premarital counseling, if you feel like you need a checkup, if you feel like you're in crisis, if you feel like you're interested in teaching some of this, or joining in on the movement for healthy relationships, how can people in this community and beyond interact with you? How do they get involved in these services? How does that work?
It's pretty easy. All they have to do is go to five18.org and look under the tab for counseling and marriage and relationship services. And right there, they can fill out a form and they can ask for marriage checkups, relationship checkups. They could ask for, counseling. They could ask for education. And, we have a myriad of services that we can offer. Like we said, we can do checkups, we can do premarital, we can do, postmarital, we can
Like
do
co-parenting?
Yeah, we can do co-parenting. We can do, in fact, we do a lot of co-parenting counseling where we bring in, we've had divorced parents that come into a counseling relationship specifically for learning how to interact better with their children, right? And so it's kind of like a family counseling, but it's specifically training for relationships. And so we have all of these different services and these ways, you're right. And it's all available there for them. All they have to do is just fill out a little box and send it in, and we'll reach out to them and get them plugged in. But
is there a cost barrier? Is there I know people listening right now, lots of folks are worried about the economy. Some of our most vulnerable neighbors may have never sought counseling is how does that work?
We take all major insurances. We take Medicaid, Medicare. And so a lot of those barriers can be completely eliminated. And then some of the things that we do that are education, some are free and some do have a small cost to them. But, we have the ability to eliminate the barriers.
Mhm.
So, if there's somebody out there and they're listening and they say, hey, I really, the two of us really want to improve our relationship, and they fill out that box and online and they say, hey, we want help. We want to be encouraged. We want to move forward. We're not going to turn anybody away,
Mhm.
and we want to help. And so I think that that's a good thing to put out there, is that those resources that are there
Mhm.
waiting for them,
Mm.
and they just need to take advantage. And for those that are maybe out there and they're saying, hey, how do we get involved? How do we partner with 518? How do we get involved in the marriage and relationship space of just helping other couples and other families thrive? We would love to hear from others that would love to join us in mending futures, mending families, seeing couples get stronger. And I think another thing that's really important is, as we think about Thanksgiving and we think about those that maybe they're in a relationship or maybe they're not in a relationship yet, but one thing they need to realize is that when you're focused on meaningful relationships with other people, and your focus isn't necessarily, am I going to get married, or am I going to have someone to love? If you can just focus on good quality friendships,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you're going to find that those good quality friendships, they blossom into relationships that last a lifetime, whether
Mhm.
that's a special someone or whether that is the friends that become your group,
Family,
or
yeah.
your family, your network.
Mhm.
Can
And
you
so,
say that again for the people out there?
yeah,
You should be what before you have a long-term relationship?
you should be friends.
You should know the person.
Yes, you should know the person. And, one of the things we teach is how not to date a jerk. And one of the things about how not to date a jerk is the only way to filter out jerks is that you need to push them through your funnel, and that's your group of friends.
Mm.
If you don't have good friends that can tell you and you're willing to listen
Mhm.
to whether or not that person is a jerk or not, you're probably going to end up getting hurt.
Huge.
I
Yeah,
feel like that could be a whole podcast.
it definitely can. There's a lot of pieces to that.
Yeah.
We'll
I
have you back on.
Yeah, we'll have you
Okay,
back.
I feel like I opened a box there. Sorry about
It's
that.
okay. It's a good teaser for the
Yeah.
next one.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask the question that he kind of alluded to as
Yeah.
we close this out?
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned that you were the product of a mended future.
Mhm.
Do you want to expand on that?
Sure. I don't know if we have enough time now to completely unbox it,
Mhm.
but I will say that one of the things that I saw in my life was my uh, my parents did a really good job of showing me and my siblings love, but there was a point in my life where I I wanted a relationship with someone special, and I had actually reached a point where I was really doubting everything.
Mm.
And I went through a dark season for a while. And the one thing that brought me out of it was my faith. It was God. It was also realizing that I wasn't alone, and that I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe this Valentine's season they're feeling alone.
Mm.
Maybe they're going through a dark season. And I was in my 20s and I really didn't know, that I needed that support. And so, to those that are out there, that maybe they had to go through a journey for a mended future like I did, where I had to reconcile myself with my faith and I had to reconcile myself with really understanding that people are good
Mm.
and that people care about you and that they want to be in your life. And when I made peace with that, then my life turned into a beautiful thing. My life mended.
Mm.
And I think for those out there that maybe are going through a dark time, that they need to know that they can have a mended future, but they need to realize they need other people. So you have to stop isolating.
Connection.
You have to connect.
Meaningful relationships.
You do. You really have to open your heart to accept other people in your life and then allow them to come in. And when you do life with other people, then those doors start to open up and your life begins to change. So
It's a good place to stop.
I know.
My goodness. Thanks for being
Thank you,
here.
Adam.
you're welcome.
You're the bomb.
Thank you for listening to the Mended Futures podcast, hosted by Allison Jordan and Taylor Melvin, produced by Liam Chafin, Sue England, Allison Jordan, Robert Day, Sully Jugar, and Taylor Melvin. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to see more.